Hey everyone, welcome to another daily cinephile vlog. It's another movie review, another movie on streaming. This one's on Amazon Prime. It's called Roleplay. And with a title like that, I'm sure some of your minds are swimming right now about what it could be about. No worries, nothing too extreme. It's simply about a married couple. They go out on a date, and sort of like a Modern Family episode. They did this a few times in Modern Family. They do a role play setup where they're going to meet each other at the bar for the date, but pretend like they don't know one another. They're going to play some roles, hence the name role play. But on top of that, the wife is actually doing a further role play because she's really a secret assassin. This is Kaley Cuoco playing the secret assassin. And while on this date with her husband, played by David Oyelowo, they are caught by a different guy, Bill Nye, who turns out is on the trail for Kaley Cuoco because there's a price currently on her head. So this movie promotes itself as an action comedy. I was thinking of something sort of like Date Night. So this is a movie that I'm not sure how many people really talk about it anymore, but I thought it was a decent PG-13 comedy involving some great comedic talent. And for what it is, I think it's an enjoyable movie. This one also is about a married couple who gets into a situation involving some bad guys, unintentionally, and leads to some funny hijinks. I think it's a funny movie. I was expecting maybe Roleplay would do something like that. And not to compare it, I'm not saying that I need Roleplay to be more like Date Night, but what the movie ends up doing is, I think, extremely disappointing. The movie promotes itself as a comedy. It's not actually all that funny. Throughout it all, it doesn't even really seem like they're attempting jokes. And what's interesting is that David Oyelowo, he was also in a movie called Gringo. Gringo is not a movie that I remember too much about, but what I do remember is his comedic performance. He's best known for his role in Selma. He's also done some other historical dramas. He's done serious pieces. But in Gringo, he played a funnier role. He had a charisma in that I thought was very funny. And it's only a few times throughout this film that you actually see some of that from him. Anything that's funny in this movie is coming from him. Otherwise, the rest of the movie, it doesn't really attempt any kind of humor. Even when Bill Nye shows up, he's got this weird eccentric performance, but even he can't do much with the role, and he's sadly hardly in the film. Is there a lot of action in this movie? Unfortunately, no. It doesn't really do much for action either. Kaley Cuoco is supposed to be this secret assassin, but unfortunately, I just never believe her in the role. I also don't believe the chemistry between this married couple. They're kind of on the rocks right now, and that's why they set up this date. But it takes so long for things to get going, and you don't really get invested in their relationship. You just don't really believe them as a couple to begin with. And sure, they're on the rocks, but the whole idea of that, the idea of them delving into their relationship, trying to figure things out, that is never expanded upon much. And by the end, they kind of drop that whole idea of their, marriage and their relationship and what they need to improve, or if it's even salvageable. Really, they kind of ditch that and instead throw in this different plot line that turns into something like you would see from, Black Widow. It's kind of like that storyline. Turns out Kaley Cuoco was part of a secret agency where she tried to leave them after she fell in love with her husband. It leads to a finale that is really not all that interesting. The movie treats you like you're pretty stupid. They repeat some different lines and they explain some things in a way that was not necessary for the audience. There's a flashback towards the end of the film that is so unbelievably unnecessary. I actually wondered did they watch the final edit to make sure everything was flowing narratively and everything made sense, because that flashback was not necessary. Everybody already understood what was going on from the beginning. The story just takes way too long to get going. When they're at the date at the bar, you already figure out what's going on from the beginning, the moment Bill Nye's character shows up, and you're just hoping that things will pick up. But the movie is so tonally inconsistent, it can never decide if it wants to be a comedy or if it wants to be something a little more serious. And honestly, when it tries to be serious, it's really hard to take it seriously. And when the movie ends, you'll be shocked how it ends, because things just go completely unresolved. Like, if the movie was a black comedy, I think the tone would make a lot more sense, but it's an incredibly boring movie that never gets off the ground. It never figures out what it is. I honestly gave this 1 out of 5 stars. I do not recommend this one. The January duds are famously always shown in theaters, but apparently they're on the streamer services as well now.